Sharon Osbourne's story begins long before fame, but one pivotal moment stands out: meeting Ozzy Osbourne when she was still a teenager. At 18, she watched him walk into her father's office, a living symbol of chaos, brilliance, and danger wrapped in rock and roll myth. That encounter was not romantic or cinematic at first. It was unsettling, electric, and confusing. Sharon sensed instinctively that this man represented a world she both feared and felt drawn to, a world defined by excess, creativity, and constant risk. Years later, she would recognize that moment as the beginning of a path shaped by endurance rather than glamour. Her life would become a study in survival, not spectacle. Sharon's journey would never follow a straight line, but from that first meeting, destiny quietly began weaving love, ambition, and hardship into a single, inseparable narrative. Childhood, inside the house of Don Arden. Sharon Rachel Arden was born in London in 1952, into a household ruled by power rather than tenderness. Her father, Don Arden, was one of the most feared music managers of his era, a man whose reputation was built on control, intimidation, and ruthless ambition. In the Arden home, affection was scarce, rules were absolute, and emotional safety was non-existent. Arguments echoed through hallways, contracts carried more weight than compassion, and children learned early that silence was survival. Sharon absorbed these lessons deeply, growing up alert, guarded, and observant. Love felt conditional, tied to obedience and usefulness rather than warmth. While wealth and industry access surrounded her, emotional security did not. This environment hardened Sharon, not by choice, but by necessity, teaching her resilience long before she understood the word. The scars of that upbringing would shape every decision she later made, both personally and professionally. Loss that shaped a lifetime. The most defining trauma of Sharon's childhood arrived early and without warning. When she was just 6 years old, her mother died in a car accident, removing the only consistent source of comfort from her life. Grief settled into Sharon quietly but permanently, leaving an emotional absence no privilege could replace. The loss forced her to mature too soon, learning that attachment could vanish in an instant. In a household already lacking softness, her mother's death created an emotional vacuum that was never fully filled. Sharon carried that wound into adolescence, developing self-reliance as a defense mechanism rather than a strength she chose. While other children experienced nurturing guidance, Sharon learned endurance. That early loss shaped her understanding of love as fragile and temporary, a belief that would later influence how fiercely she fought to protect her own family, even when the cost was personal sacrifice, learning power before learning peace. Growing up under Don Arden's shadow gave Sharon an education in power that few could imagine. She watched negotiations built on fear, loyalty demanded rather than earned, and success maintained through dominance. These lessons were harsh but effective. Sharon learned that talent alone meant nothing without control, and vulnerability was treated as weakness. Her relationship with her father was volatile, filled with confrontations that tested her resolve. Yet those conflicts forged a sharp mind and a formidable will. Sharon learned strategy, instinct, and emotional restraint long before adulthood. Though the environment was damaging, it prepared her for an industry that rewards toughness and punishes softness. She internalized the reality that survival often requires difficult choices. These early lessons would later define her approach to management, relationships, and crisis, giving her the ability to stand firm when others collapsed under pressure. Choosing love over inheritance. By her late 20s, Sharon stood at a crossroads shaped by expectation. She could have inherited her father's empire, continuing a legacy built on control and fear. Instead, she chose Ozzy Osbourne, a man publicly unraveling, dismissed by the industry as unstable and unreliable. Where others saw risk, Sharon saw humanity and untapped potential. Loving Ozzy meant severing ties with her father and walking away from financial security. The decision was not romanticized, it was brutal and isolating. Sharon traded comfort for commitment, stepping into uncertainty without guarantees. She became manager, protector, and partner, navigating addiction, criticism, and financial instability. Their marriage in 1982 was not a fairy tale, but a pact forged through adversity. Sharon's choice defined her life. She would build something real, even if it meant starting from nothing and carrying the weight alone. Rebuilding a career and a family. The revival of Ozzy Osbourne's career during the 1980s was not accidental. It was the result of Sharon's relentless drive and strategic vision. Albums like Blizzard of Oz were victories earned through discipline and persistence, not luck. Sharon managed contracts, tours, and crises while raising children and shielding her family from chaos. The creation of Ozfest in the 1990s redefined heavy metal culture and gave emerging artists a platform, cementing Ozzy's legacy while proving Sharon's business brilliance. Behind the scenes, however, success came with exhaustion, fear, and constant vigilance. Sharon carried the emotional burden of holding everything together, often sacrificing her own well-being. The world saw triumph. Sharon lived survival. Yet through it all, her loyalty to family remained unshaken, even when the cost was invisible and deeply personal. Fame, exposure, and private battles. When the Osbournes premiered in 2002, Sharon's life shifted again. The show transformed private struggles into public entertainment, blending humor with raw reality. Audiences laughed, but the exposure came at a price. Cameras captured moments that should have remained private, amplifying stress rather than easing it. That same year, Sharon was diagnosed with colon cancer, beginning a grueling fight that unfolded largely out of public view. Chemotherapy weakened her body but strengthened her resolve. She remained present for her children and supportive of Ozzy, even while confronting mortality. The contrast between public laughter and private pain was stark. Sharon later acknowledged that fame offered opportunity but stole peace. Her resilience during this period revealed not spectacle, but strength, proving that endurance is often quiet, uncelebrated, and deeply human. Health, betrayal, and reinvention. Sharon's later years were marked by difficult choices and personal reckonings. In 2012, she chose preventive surgery after learning of her genetic cancer risk, prioritizing her children's future over comfort. She spoke openly about the experience, reframing vulnerability as courage. In 2016, her marriage faced another test when trust was broken, forcing Sharon to confront betrayal without illusion. Instead of retreating, she chose accountability and rebuilding, understanding that love requires boundaries as much as forgiveness. Professionally, she continued evolving, becoming a respected television personality known for honesty rather than performance. These years revealed Sharon not as invincible, but adaptable. Each challenge reshaped her, proving that reinvention is not denial of pain, but refusal to be defined by it. Her strength lay not in perfection, but persistence, a legacy built on endurance. Sharon Osbourne's life is not a story of glamour, but of survival shaped by choice. From childhood loss to public scrutiny, illness, and emotional sacrifice, she consistently chose responsibility over escape. Her legacy is not limited to music or television, but to the example she set through endurance, loyalty, and honesty. Sharon showed that strength does not mean avoiding pain, but carrying it without surrender. She built a family from instability, transformed chaos into structure, and faced adversity without erasing her humanity. Her story resonates because it is real, imperfect, and unfinished. Sharon Osbourne remains a testament to resilience, reminding us that true power is not dominance, but the courage to stand, rebuild, and continue when life offers every reason to stop.